Welcome back to some new PettyRevenge stories, where people share small victories over those who wronged them. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now, let's start with the first story, shall we? It's called Should Have Gotten in Writing. I'm a contractor. While working on a project in a very remote location, I arranged to buy and bring 2 rounds of breakfast tacos for the staff of the county facility where I would be working for the next week, in exchange for free copy privileges. The boss gave approval on the phone, and the total for the tacos that week came out to just over $100. A great exchange, as the copy budget was upwards of $1,000. My receipts along with the supporting CC statement I submitted at the end of the billing cycle, between a week and 2 weeks after he'd verbally approved the expense, was declined. I wasn't too angry, but a deal's a deal, and I called the boss to remind him he'd approved the expense. His response? You should have gotten it in writing. This set me off royally, but I finished the project as promised and was working on another project for another client less than a week later. A couple of months go by, and the boss, who chiseled me out of the dollars, called to see if I was available to work on another project, beginning on the 1st of the next month. And after some haggling, I agreed. The work schedule would be tight, and in his words, this was an all-hands-on-deck project, with nights and weekends expected. I was also told this was a new client, and they wanted to impress. A couple of days before the project was set to begin, the chiseler called to tell me that the engagement paperwork was on the way, and checked my email. I told him I had decided not to work the project after all, and he was furious. He screamed. I mean screamed. You agreed to work on this project weeks ago. I repeated his words verbatim. You should have gotten it in writing. The next story is called Only in Group Chat. I have a coworker I don't get along with. I tried being friendly with him when I first started, but he listened to a coworker who worked in my unit, and she only ever spoke badly about me. She later admitted it's because she has a hard time making friends, is shy, and sometimes being a little bit mean helps her open up. This coworker guy is only ever nice and helpful to the girls. For the longest time I was the only guy in my unit. That meant that if he had any info he needed to share to me, he would take it to my boss. If he had info to share to anyone else in my unit, he would come bearing gifts, usually Mexican or Japanese snacks. He prefers his private messages to be only from the girls in the office. Recently, he directly told me to only message him in the group chat. If it hasn't been for the way he told me, I would have been okay. There are managers in the group chat, timestamps, etc. I began to message him in the group chat, but only to point out his errors, showing that he was making people wait up to an hour to hear from him on issues that normally take 2 to 5 minutes to get a response back on, sending messages that people are on hold for him, and implying that he should be taking calls he promises to take, and not leaving them to flirt with girls in the office. In the last hour of the day, he came back to me and just quickly said, "Please send messages for me directly to me." I didn't. He was very stern in needing messages for him in the group chat. The third story is called Flamingo Garden. My husband and I bought our first house 13 years ago and quickly realized we were the black sheep of the neighborhood. We are in a quiet cul-de-sac in the middle of town, a neighborhood we never really knew existed until we started looking for homes to buy. Our neighbors are about 10 to 20 years older than us and keep their yards in unsustainable perfection, unless you either hire a lawn service or are retired and have nothing better to do than yard work 24/7, rain or shine. The neighbors to our sides and across the street are the latter. One neighbor will use a leaf vacuum to remove leaves from his yard and the street in front of his house multiple times a day. If it's storming, he'll stand in his garage with the door open and will rush out during breaks in the rain to remove every last leaf. Dude has serious OCD about his lawn. He doesn't own one tree and moans to other neighbors about the sycamore tree in our front yard, because it not only peels its bark year round, but also drops its leaves really early into the season. We don't rake our leaves because it's a great natural fertilizer, but we do pick up large branches and bark before we mow. Not long after we purchased the house, I could no longer do heavy yard work. My husband kept it up until he also had problems during the 2020 and couldn't do the heavy lifting either. We now have very limited funds, so we hired a kid to mow and whatnot for us, very cheap. When the school stopped online classes once the 2020 was under control, he stopped working and we had to rely on family to help. They are only able to help a couple times a month at the most. And this is apparently unacceptable to our neighbors. If our grass is a smidge over 6 inches, they call the city code enforcement office and report us. I've gotten to know the woman fielding the calls very well over the past couple years. She agrees that the reports are excessive, but is still required to follow up and contact us about the complaints. Many of the complaints are a civil issue, such as tree too close to our fence. But grass side is the one that we have to abide. If we've had a good rain, like this year it rained a lot, then sure, our lawn is going to grow faster. And our family may not be able to come into town immediately and help. They have never once spoken to us about it. Never once asked why the sudden change in lawn care. In fact, we've never even spoken to any of the problem neighbors in over 5 years. Instead, they report us and report us and report us. Again, the city understands and gives us a month to get it taken care of. And we do, every time. It's absolutely ridiculous. One day, we decided that we were done with trying to be a nice neighbor and fit in with the golf course lawn crowd. And we got petty. We called the city to get the property line tagged and asked for a copy of the city code about what you can and can't put in your lawn. Pink flamingos are not on that list. We now have 20 large pink flamingos a few inches on our side of the property line and along our side of the sidewalk. There's not a thing they can do about it, and it most definitely gave the city official a good laugh. We still gotta keep the grass under 6 inches, but it just feels different now. The last story is called Pharmacy Jerk. A man walked into a pharmacy at 8:30, about 30 minutes before they closed for the day. There was a bit of a line inside and the drive-thru was backed up. Now, instead of getting in the back of the line like a normal person, he walked straight up to the counter and started saying that the pharmacy down the street sent him here and demanded that she fill his script before they close for the night. The pharmacist is annoyed, but is polite, found the script in the computer and said if he gets in the pickup line, it will be ready by the time he gets to the front. The man insisted he doesn't need to wait in line and ran to stand off the side with his arms crossed like a jackass. It had already been a long day shift with a never-ending stream of annoying customers, so the pharmacist was fed up by this point. His script was only a package that needed a label slapped on it and to be put in a bag, so it was ready in 2 minutes. But instead of calling him over, she let it sit there. She let him stand there for about 15 minutes before she paged him over the PR and checked him out. It costs nothing to be nice, but it costs about 15 minutes to be a jerk. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.